Hello, this is lesson 0.3, Introduction to C, C++. The C language was developed in 1972 by Dennis Ritchie at Bell Telephone Laboratories primarily as a systems programming language. What do I mean by that? I mean that a language to write operating system with. Ritchie's primary goals were to produce a minimalistic language that was easy to compile, allowed efficient access to memory, produced efficient code, and did not need extensive runtime support. Despite being a fairly low-level, high-level language, it was designed to encourage machines and platform-independent programming. C ended up being so efficient and flexible that in 1973, Ritchie and Ken Thompson rewrote most of the Unix operating system using C. Many previous operating systems had been written in assembly. Unlike assembly, which ties a program to a specific CPU, as I explained in the previous lesson, C's excellent portability allowed Unix to be recompiled on many different types of computers, speeding its adoption. C and Unix had their fortunes tied together, and C's popularity was in part tied to the success of Unix as an operating system. In 1978, Brian Kernighan and Dennis Ritchie published a book called The C Programming Language. This book was commonly known as K&R after the author's last name, provided an informal specification for the language and became a de facto standard. When maximum portability was needed, programmers would stick to the recommendations in K&R because most compilers at the time were implemented to K&R standards. Let's continue with a bit of history. In 1983, the American National Standards Institute, ANSI, formed a committee to establish a formal standard to C. In 1989, yes I know, committees take forever to do anything, they finished and released the C89 standard, more commonly known as ANSI-C. In 1990, the International Organization for Standardization adopted ANSI-C with a few minor modifications. This version of C became known as C90. Compilers eventually became ANSI, C, and C90 compliant, and programs desiring maximum portability were coded to this standard. In 1999, the ANSI committee released a new version of C called C99, which adopted many features which were already made their way into compilers as extensions or had been implemented in C++. So C++ was developed by Bjarne Stroustrup at Bell Labs as an extension to C starting in 1979. C++ was ratified in 1998 by the ISO committee and again in 2003 and 2010. The underlying design philosophy of C and C++ can be summed up as trust the programmer, which is both wonderful because the compiler will not stand in your way if you try to do something unorthodox that makes sense, but also dangerous because the compiler will not stand in your way if you try to do something that could produce unexpected results. That is one of the primary reasons why knowing how not to code in C, C++ is important. Because there are quite a few pitfalls that new programmers such as you are likely to fall into if caught unaware. C++ adds many new features to the C language and is perhaps best known as a superset of C. Although this is not strictly true, as C99 introduced a few features that do not exist in C++. C++'s claim to fame results primarily from the fact that it is an object-oriented language. As for what an object-oriented language is, or what an object is, and how it differs from traditional programming methods, well, we'll cover that in just a few sections. Thank you for watching. See you next time.